From EPAWA Weather Consulting, headquartered in Worth Whitehall, Pennsylvania, this is Weather Weeklies, an informative video of the ins and outs of weather that affect you most in the EPAWA coverage area. The thoughts and opinions expressed in this video are those of the forecaster alone and may not reflect those of the staff of EPAWA Weather Consulting LLC as a whole, nor its constituents. Now, without further ado, here is meteorologist Bobby Martrich with Weather Weeklies.
Good Sunday morning to another edition of Weather Weeklies for Sunday, January 22nd. It is a slow start to the day here. I almost thought I was not going to have a Weather Weeklies video this morning. I woke up first thing this morning, had to wake up early after being up very late last night for the game, and my voice, I thought I was not going to be able to speak today, but it's been coming back over the last couple of hours here. I was a little hoarse this morning from hooting and hollering and yelling and being a little obnoxious last night every time the Eagles scored. So today's long range is going to focus on the next 5 to 6 weeks, and we're headed. Of course, we're going to start off with some short-term systems that we're going to be expecting this week. There are some differences between what we have coming in today and what's coming in on Wednesday. There are two different types of systems, so we'll discuss that here. A little bit better potential for some areas with the second one. Today's kind of a sheared apart, very weak system, and only affecting some of those northern areas that are colder. Here's where we are year to date in snowfall, or this is what average snowfall is for January and February. Obviously, we're going to finish well below average here in the month of January for most areas, and in some areas you're not going to get anything at all, and that's going to be southeast of I-95. You do have a chance to break the mold, so to speak, right along I-95 from Philadelphia to New York, which has had very, very little at all. As a matter of fact, here's what we have for year-to-date snowfall. Philadelphia is still at a trace. Newark's still at 0.1. I think New York City's still at a trace. Atlantic City's still at a trace. I don't expect you to change here through the end of the month in Atlantic City, but there is a chance that if you can get some snow to stick at the onset on Wednesday, you might have maybe a very minor. I mean, it would be measurable, but not very, very much. So there is a chance there. You get off that trace there. Same thing up here in Newark. But in the interior on Wednesday, we'll have an opportunity for snowfall. You can see we're obviously well behind what average is supposed to be at this point, which is in most areas double digits snowfall, and we're not even close anywhere across the region. Now, the Scranton-Wilkes-Barre area will get some today, but it's going to be probably, we think, according to an inch in those areas where the official reporting station is at the WNEP 16 backyard is where they take the measurements for Scranton-Wilkes-Barre Airport. Since it's so close, I think it's within 2 miles, but it's they're probably not going to get more than about an inch as an upside there in the valley locations. The higher elevations will do a little bit better with this system. So here's a look at today's system as it's coming in. It's going to go fast here, but down there 78, you might start off with a few flakes mixed with the rain initially, but I don't expect any really accumulations there. It's really going to be the mountainous regions off the north, and NAM is going to continue some snow showers here on Monday morning at least, but you can see most of this is going to be across northeast PA, north central PA, where it was expected to be for most of this event, but you have some lingering snow showers and flurries here on Monday morning. So here's what we have for our snow map. These pink areas in between are just that, yes, you can see flakes, and this is the northern parts, just north of I-78 or along I-78. You have the opportunity to see a few snowflakes at the initial, as the rain comes down. You might have some flakes mixing in, but I don't think it's going to do anything as far as accumulations. It's not until you get to even the southern Poconos here doesn't get into anything more than a coating to an inch, which is the sea gray area in the middle, and that extends into the Wilkes-Barre-Scranton area because they're lower elevation. Once you get the higher elevations, you can get over an inch, and that's indicated in this the lighter blue color, which is a 1 to 3, and then we have 3 to 5 up here in the far northern parts of the state where mostly snow will occur. The rain areas, there's not a tremendous amount of rain out of this either. We're looking at generally a quarter to a half inch. So it's not a wrapped up system. This was a system that was expected to be. We were looking at a couple days ago, dumping more snow and bringing it further south is because we had a stronger low off the coast, kind of pulling in some cold air and bringing it a little bit further south. And that's the reason why. It's just a very weak system. So you're not getting a lot of precipitation for one, and two, you don't have that cold air pull because there's no cold air source with this particular system. The difference between and why midweek is a bit different is because ahead of this system, this is going to cut, and it is going to change to rain most likely across the region. That's on Wednesday, but The difference is you have high pressure in place at this time ahead of this. So they do have, at least initially, some cold air funneling in to this system as this system is moving up in this direction. Okay, it may try to do a Miller B, which is a transfer to another secondary low somewhere out here. It's trying to do that here on the model runs for this particular system, but that's not really something that, we'll see. We'll see if that happens. If this primary holds down longer, it is going to change over to rain, and we do think it's going to do that. But you can get a pretty good thump of snow here in these areas on the front end, and of course that'll extend up in New England as well, where you can get several inches of snow. Matter of fact, this is what the European model had on its most recent run, which was the overnight run. So you can see this is a little bit obviously further south from what we're dealing with this current system, because these areas here along I-78 we're just getting maybe a few snowflakes mixing with the rain today, and that's it before it goes over to all rain. Here you're showing some minor accumulations here in the I-78 corridor, and that extends further southeast into parts of southeast PA. And it does have 0.3 in Philadelphia. If that's true, you'll get off that trace that you have there right now. And same thing up here by Newark, it has 1.3. So, I mean, again, it's not a lot of snow, and this is not your traditional snowfall. Everybody wants a snowfall from start to finish. The kids go out and play in it. You don't want it changing over rain, because then it turns into a slop mess, and it's just, you'd rather it be all snow if you could choose what kind of storm you wanted, right? But this is not going to be that. It's just a struggle this winter. So if you're going to get anything out of this, you're going to have a lot of these slop storms. It's a third-year La Nina, and, this is kind of what you get in a La Nina pattern. It's just kind of like pulling teeth. So we could get some snow on the front end here, a good thump of snow on the front end before it changes over to rain, and that will do so everywhere, we think, for this midweek system on Wednesday. But you could get some decent amounts on the front end, and this does count. If you have, say, what does it have for Allentown here? Let's just see, 3.3. You had 3.3 inches that fell at Allentown, and then it turned to rain and it turned to slop and melted or compacted. That 3.3 still counts. It's not like it didn't happen, and it still counts to the annual total. So you might have to do some of this nickel and diming to get some totals of snow here. Taking a look at the temperature periods here, we are going to be kind of like up and down the rest of the month here. We're looking at this weekend turning a little bit milder again, slightly above average, but then the first week of February is cold, as you can see here, colder than average, and we'll have temperatures that are going to be consistently slightly below average over that entire stretch through the first week of February. Then I think the southeast ridge is going to come back, and we're going to have that influence in weeks 2 and 3, and I try to highlight that in the long-range outlook that I did on Friday for the weeks 2 and 3 periods being the milder weeks with that southeast ridge returning. I don't think it's going to be really taking an effect here in the first week. As you can see here, there is no southeast ridge, but it will come back, we think, after that point. So taking a look at the next 2 weeks temperature trends. I take a sip of my coffee. Hold on a second. Free advertisement for Wawa. Great coffee, by the way. Anyway, the next 2 weeks, taking a look at our centermost point, which is Allentown Lehigh Valley International Airport, the centermost point of our coverage area. Just to give you an idea of temperature trends, you still got a lot of ups and downs here through about the 30th or thereabout. I know we're saying the 26th maybe it would change, and it will, but then you have this little surge in between, if you want to call it that, a couple degrees above average here for the weekend and maybe early next week, and then after that we are consistently in the 30s, as you can see, and then average highs are actually going to start going up. We're now at annual climatological minimum highs, and temperatures are going to start very slowly during the month of February, creeping up a little bit at a time. So it's not much. I think it goes by the end of the month here at this location, it goes up to 42. So about a degree a week it goes up. So it's not a big jump, but it is on the upward trend as we head into February as far as average highs and lows. Here is the Madden-Julian Oscillation, which is your convection, measure your best convection in the equatorial regions across the globe at 5 degrees north, the tropical convergence zone. Wherever that best convection is, contributes to latent heat release processes that extend poleward and change the jet configuration. So this is important, but I will tell you, the GFS, which is on the left here, this is the GFS right here, and the Euro Weeklies on the right. This is the GFS extended. Takes us through phase 2 and 3, and then it goes right through all these warmer phases all the way out here. I will tell you, this time of year, this would be a complete loss for the month of February if this were to occur, because I will tell you that this time of year, This is a cold pattern in phase 8. It's cold in phase 1. It's cold in phase 2, although there is some southeast ridge influences a little bit. Same thing here in phase 3. It's still colder and more of a gradient pattern, and I'll show you in a second. But you are in a warm phase here in phase 4, 5, 6, and 7. Okay, these are all warmer phases. So if this went like this, February would be a loss. Okay, and it would be, it is what it is if that's the case that it ends up doing that. Most other guidance, including the European ensemble, takes it through 2 and 3, then collapses at the beginning of the month into the circle of death and kind of just does one of these loops in here. Most guidance is more suggestive of something to the right, not the left. So I will continue to monitor that here in the week ahead, but that's certainly going to have an effect on how February plays out and how long that southeast ridge influence is. Right now I have it weeks 2 and 3, and then maybe toward the end of the month, turning colder, heading into March, which is not what anybody wants to hear, because in March, you're kind of like getting geared up for spring coming. We still have 2 full months. Today is the 22nd, so we've been 1 full month of winter so far, okay? We're 1 month in. We still have 2 months left. We still have up to the 20th or 21st of March until winter is over, but then when you get into March, you're dealing with sun angle issues and things like that. So you might have a bigger snow event or something that comes in the month of March, but it doesn't last long because it's, the sun angle is a lot higher, right? So it melts off quicker. So we'll cross that bridge when we get there. I don't want to get into March so much, but here is what the Madden-Julian Oscillation does in February and what it looks like in a phase 2. So you get a little bit of a southeast ridge influence here. But it's not really it's going to be abated, I think, in the first week of February. So this is not going to be until we get into weeks 2 and 3 where you start seeing influence of that southeast ridge, and the models are showing that for the weeks 2 and 3 period. If you get into a phase 3, it's more of a gradient overrunning pattern with, again, the big chunk of the southern part of the United States above average. Okay, so let's take a look at the extended GFS. You can see a little bit of that southeast ridge influence as you get into weeks 2 and 3 coming in here and across the southern U.S. in phase 3. So you are seeing that at the very end of the run, it starts to go down. This runs out of range here around the 25th because it only goes that far. But you can see weeks 2 and 3 are slightly above average, and then it starts to abate a little bit, gets back to near average right about the, I'm sorry, this is the 24th. The Euro Weeklies are doing something very similar. Again, it has a southeast ridge influence here, weeks 2 and 3. Week 3, during week 4, it starts to break down, though, and then you get colder temperatures that extend into early March. Okay, the first week of March, it gets colder again, too. A lot of this will be predicated this month on, I'm sure you've heard of it throughout different social media channels and things like that. Everybody's talking about a sudden stratospheric warming event. That is occurring, and it remains to see exactly how this is going to evolve, but it does look like we're going to have a warming over the poles in the stratospheric regions, which is going to displace, what that does is displace the cold air from the polar regions in the troposphere down to the mid-latitudes and sets up some blocking potential over Greenland. So that would take place, if this were to work out. This takes a while to downwell to the troposphere, and there's no guarantee it would even affect this area in particular. It could end up being Europe. It could end up being Asia. It could be the western United States. Right now, the way it's configured, it would benefit, theoretically anyway, if it were to downwell to the troposphere from the stratosphere, would benefit the eastern part of North America, most notably, I think. Again, I'm not an expert in stratospheric stuff, and this is not something they teach you when you're going through school. So, this is something I kind of yield to the experts in the field that actually study this, have PhDs, they have wrote their dissertations on that. So these are all, I kind of yield to the experts on this. I can see what's going on and I understand the process, but where it's going to end up benefiting the most still remains to be seen. So this is a big question mark just yet. So if this ended up happening and you had a full-blown sudden stratospheric warming event and you get a colder pattern, those can lock in for a good 30 days, maybe even longer, 30 to 45 days sometimes in a certain pattern with this. So that this is a very familiar thing. We've had these in late winter for several of the last few years, and it led to a cold spring, or at least a cold start to spring. And I know you don't want to hear that, because I don't want to hear it. I want to hear warmth heading to spring. With spring, things start growing. You don't want snow lingering around. You don't want cold lingering around. You want to be able to go outside and enjoy it, right? Well, if it happens, it happens. But, it is what it is at this point. We'll see. But this is something that could set up March to be a very cold month if this were to occur. So this is late February, March we're talking about for that to affect our pattern. It'll be a little bit yet. The storm signals going ahead on the Euro Weeklies. Again, this is Philadelphia. This is one of the warmest climate sites that we have. And not one of these sites, or actually just one, I'm sorry, there's two. Now that I'm looking at it, there's two members here that show, of the 50 individual ensemble members, are showing very little snow remaining here at Philadelphia. You can even count this one if you wanted to. It's only like 3 or 4 inches. But the rest of them are all showing at least some snow accumulation here in Philadelphia, that you will not be at 0, like 72, 73 in Philadelphia. Okay, so it does have, and the mean here is all the way up here about maybe 9 inches or so, 9, 10 inches. Same thing with the control. So it's suggesting that between now and March 5th, that this is the total snowfall you'll receive at using each one of these individual members. If I go to an interior location like Wilkes-Barre, Scranton, it's much more fruitful for you as far as snow is concerned between now and March 5th. And just about every single one of these it's a slam dunk here that you're getting considerable amount of snow during that period. So we'll see how this works out. But, we still have opportunities. We still have 2 months left of winter. Okay, I know it's not the best winter. I'll be the first to admit that. And it's not exactly. We're going into this winter. If you watch these videos every single week, I told you it was going to be a struggle to try to figure out what this pattern was going to do. It's a third-year La Nina. We only had that occur twice in our recorded history, so I don't have that much of a sample size to really say, okay, well, in a third-year La Nina, it does this or it favors this. Okay, we don't know, so we kind of just had to wing it a little bit more this year than usual. And anybody doing a long range outlook, like seasonal stuff, which we don't do, had struggled through this because there's no outlooks that are really working out the way they thought it was going to. Whether it be a front loaded winter, a lot of it looked like we're going to have a front loaded winter, right? And then they were expecting this big warm up in the second half. Well, we did have that in January, but I don't know if that is going to continue all the way to March. We'll see. So one other thing we're looking at here is the current ENSO, and this is definitely getting very close to an ENSO neutral pattern rather than La Nina. So we'll have to watch this, I think, in the month of... We were thinking maybe at the end of this... originally, I was thinking the end of January we would reach ENSO neutral. We're pretty close, very close. Look at these numbers. Are generally between negative 0.2 and negative 0.7. You're close. Negative 0.5 is where the threshold is met for the ONI to be considered an ENSO neutral. We're not there yet. CPC has not declared that we are yet, but they still do project, using the red line here in the middle, that we are going to be in a somewhere in this period, somewhere this month coming up in February, that we will transition into the ENSO neutral pattern, remain that way straight through next. Straight through looks like maybe early summer, and then after that we could get into a weak El Nino pattern heading into next fall, next winter. So we'll see. I don't want to get into speculation that far ahead, what that can do and things like that. But the ENSO neutral pattern would be a little bit different from what we are now in a La Nina. And I showed this a million times. If you ENSO neutral in winter, generally favors the upper Midwest, Ohio Valley, Northeast U.S. to be colder than average, with a different jet stream configuration than you would see in a La Nina. But that's going to depend on MJO phases and things like that and see where we're at, because there's no guarantee that this pattern would even shape up to. Subtropical jet will get involved here a little bit more with an ENSO neutral pattern, more so than in a La Nina, and you have less of a southeast ridge influence like you would see in a La Nina. So that's the biggest takeaway, going from ENSO neutral to or from La Nina to ENSO neutral will be a transition, and it'll get us out of this pattern. It's been a god-awful pattern for you snow lovers. I understand that, but we'll see where we go here in the coming weeks here. But I do expect this to happen soon, and it doesn't mean this pattern is going to be locked in like this. Again, it's going to depend on what MJO cycle you're in at that time or what period you're in. Some other things in the background state, if we get that stratospheric changes that are at least a blocking, this could change a lot of things. So we'll see. We'll see what happens down the line here. So we are watching the two systems that can produce snow this week, both today and Wednesday. The Wednesday system will get in more detail in the daily forecast videos that I do. I just want to give you a brief overview just to understand that we could have a good thump of snow on the front end before it goes over to rain Wednesday, and it will involve more areas, I think, than this first one. But then we are returning to colder temperatures the first week of February, and the southeast ridge is going to flex weeks 2 and 3. Okay, right now we have 2 and 3, weeks 2 and 3 highlighted as the milder periods for the core of the month of February. You could have a cold turn late month and then again in March, and that a lot of that will be depending on stratospheric changes for a possible sudden stratospheric forming event. Okay, so we'll see how that affects our area, if at all, and that could set us up for a colder, earlier spring if that were to occur. So that's it for this week's edition of Weather Weeklies. I'm going to take a look at the short-range stuff. We have a lot of stuff to do with the Wednesday system. We have to move on from the one we're having today. I know it hasn't hit yet, but we're already planning ahead for Wednesday. We're probably going to have a map out for that publicly here on Monday for that Wednesday system. So we got to get started on that, and I have a lot of work to do with that. So take care. I will see you again next week. Take care.